And you want me to hit it in the same position?
Yes. What do you say?
My lady, that is why I want the defense to have a look at this mark, which will confirm that the bat was not in the position that I was in when I did it the last time now. That the bat was actually, the handle of the bat, the angle of the bat was much lower than what it was in the last instance.
We'll come back to that because it's new. Let's go to the third mark. Do we say that it fits into the mark?
The third
The opening, yes.
And what do you want me to?
Just show me how it fit in there. Now put it in. Is it in the whole way?
My lady, can I maybe just clarify this to the defense? And I'm going to do it by an example. If you take a nail and you hit it into a piece of wood and you pull it out and you try to push it in there again without the force of a hammer, then you're not going to be able to push it in there just lightly. There is a certain amount of what do you call it, expansion when you put force onto the bat, and that is exactly what happened here. The bat was hit with force when it went through the door, and that was when the physical match, or that was when the mark was formed. And now to just slightly try and put it, or lightly try and put it back into that mark is not gonna work if you do not use a lot of force to do that. And that is why the bat doesn't go in just like a key in a lock.
Go in this position where you're standing and go to the same opening. Stand back. You can stand more to the left.
To the left?
Yes.
Why?
You can twist your bat anyway.
This is the position which I suspect the person was when he hit the
Just put it in. Is it forcing?
I don't want to force it too much now,
No,
my lady,
does
as it might create some new marks.
Does it replicate the mark?
It corresponds to the marks, my lady.
When you were standing?
Excuse me?
When you were standing.
No, the bat is in a lower position now. It's an unnatural position if I'm standing.
Let's forget about unnatural positions, what you regard as unnatural. Just remain in a standing position and hit, but don't really contact the door, that it goes in there. Ask Mr. Kruger to do it if you don't want to do it, but you can first do it. Please go back and show us again.
I just want to say something, my lady. It's important to note the natural position. Because as I explained, when you do certain actions, one would not do it in an unnatural position, because it's embedded in your whole system to do it in a natural type of way, not to be uncomfortable when you perform certain actions.
Why is a natural position, according to you, the natural position of Mr. Pistorius?
My lady, as I said, if I have to demonstrate it to you what I meant with a natural position, if the bat was in like it is in here, it would have been I would have been in an unnatural position to handle or to hold the bat, the handle of the bat.
You can lift it a little bit, it's fine, it should correspond.
If I lift it, then again...
Push it in.
If I lift it, then again the marks on the side is not corresponding with the side of the door and the panel. And that is the finding that I made. And based on the marks on the side, as well as the physical match in there, was what caused me to believe that the bat was actually in this position.
Colonel, just go back with the bat and in a standing position. You can bend your back, it's fine. You can, not your legs, Colonel, not your legs. Just bend your back. Yes? Does it go in?
It will go in, yes.
Is it unnatural to bend your back when you hit something?
This is a very unnatural, uncomfortable position, my lady.
Is it uncomfortable to you?
It's uncomfortable to me, my lady,
Yes.
and it's unnatural.
Are there any other marks that you say that, apart from the fact that it was uncomfortable and you described as unnatural, that it replicate, that it match?
You mean the bat match
Yes.
with the door? My lady, as I said earlier in my testimony in chief, that I couldn't find any other marks on the door which I was comfortable to link with the bat and the action of bashing open the door.
Can you remember my question?
Is there any other marks?
Was it, when you, forget about now that you regard it as unnatural, when you replicated that shot in a standing position, did it match?
In a standing position?
Yes,
In
you were there.
a natural, comfortable position?
I say forget about what you regard as natural. Did it match when you were standing? Did the mark match?
My lady, I'm not
When he was
certain that I
standing
understand
straight.
what
When you were standing with your back bent when you went through,
Yes.
did the mark match?
when I was standing like this.
Now you don't have to bend your legs, just your back and go for, like you've done it before.
Like this.
Yes, did it match?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Am I correct in understanding that all the marks will match, also standing, but for the fact that in your mind, in your evidence, you do not regard a bent back as a natural position?
My lady, as I said in our evidence in chief, the marks matched with in a natural position without the legs of Mr. Pistorius. That the marks is consistent with him being in a natural position without these prostheses.
Colonel, understand it, but we've moved on to get you to demonstrate. Each one that I asked you, each of your marks, you demonstrated also by standing, not so. And each mark matched.
It matched if I bent myself into an unnatural position. Yes, my lady.
The only difference is you say that it was an unnatural position for you to be into it at all.
Yes, my lady.
Now, I'm trying to find out in your test how many of these unnatural positions that you described that you photograph, perhaps, that we can look at to see how many body positions you can take in hitting the door, because it depends on shoulder turn, it depends on how far forward you move with your back, it depends on the distance you're away from the door. How many that you take different pictures, or did you take a video of that so that we can look at it?
My lady, I did not take pictures, neither did I take a video, but I think it's evident in what I showed you here today. The unnatural position that I demonstrated, I must be in before the bat match. I think that is pretty self-explanatory.
Now, is it your version, doesn't no matter if he was standing on his thumbs according to you or standing up straight, that the bat went through the door, it broke the door?
My lady, that is indeed true. The bat went through the door, and as I said in my statement as well, my understanding of what happened there was a twisting action of the bat, or a wedging action of the bat, which caused the frame, and if you can just point it out here, the bottom piece broke out, and there's a piece on the back that also broke out. I just slightly or lightly put it back together to keep the frame intact. But this piece was actually loose when I investigated the door. So my view is that the bat went through the door, and the only way to break it open was to wedge it like this and break open the lips on the frame of the door.
Well, if the bat goes in, and I'm just asking you, if the bat goes in, you pull it out and you take your hands and you rip that out, what would happen? Have you tried that?
That is part of what happened, what my view is. When the bat went through the door here, my lady, and the twisting action was applied to the frame, this piece most probably broke out. And then the accused could have been able to rip out the rest of the door.
Of course, you could also hit it through, then put your hand in and rip it open. It's equal force.
No, I disagree with that, my lady.
Show me why.
Because if this was intact and the piece in the back of the door was intact, it would have been very difficult to rip it out. When you have the bat through the door and you can wedge it, you've got the leverage, which is much more than just the force of your hands to
You
open.
say it would be more difficult.
Much more difficult, yes, my lady.
Have you tried it?
My lady, I didn't try it because the door was already broken when I got it.
Now, if we look at this door, it is consistent, and I think it's conclusive, in fact, and if you disagree, we can go through it, that when the shots were fired, the door was intact. It was not broken.
That is true, my lady.
What is your view? When was the door hit?
When was the door hit?
Hit with the bat? Before or after the shots?
My lady, I would say the door was hit after the shots, or at least some part of it broke after the shot. Because if you look at the crack down here, it enters this bullet hole on the one side and it exits on the other side. Or it enters on the one side and exits on this side. So what this tells me is that there had to be a hole in the door before this piece broke off. Otherwise, the crack would have gone straight through.
Lady, may I just inquire something that I was thinking of, and if you would not mind me doing it to communicate just with the recording facility. I'm just concerned when the witness moves away that it's maybe not recorded because he's not in front of the
while he's
microphone. And I was
at
just
the door and he's speaking.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
May I just inquire, my lady? I was just concerned about it. And lady, I'm really. May I ask for a short adjournment just to listen to it, because what I try to avoid is that he's giving evidence away from the microphone, and it's not there. That means that I would have to reconstruct.
Yes. We'll take a short adjournment.
What happened here? The bat was hit with force when it went through the door, and that was when the physical match, well, that was when the mark was formed. And now to just slightly try and put it, or lightly try and put it back into that mark, is not gonna work if you do not.
Put it in. Is it in the whole way?
My lady, can I maybe just clarify this to the defense? And I'm going to do it by an example. If you take a nail and you hit it into a piece of wood, and you want me to hit it in the same position?
Yes. What do you say?
My lady, that is why I want the defense to have a look at this mark, which will confirm that the bat was not in the position that I was in when I did it the last time now. That the bat was actually the hand, and you pull it out, and you try to push it in there again without the force of a hammer, then you're not going to be able to push it in there just lightly. There is a certain amount of what do you call it, expansion when you put force onto the bat, and that is exactly what happened. The angle of the bat was much lower than what it was in the last instance.
We'll come back to that because it's new. Let's go to the third mark. Do we say that it fits into the mark? The opening, yes.
And what do you want me to?
Just show me how it fit in there.